That chaotic, busy life you lead. The one with the constant meetings, the inbox that never ends, all the notifications.
It feels productive.
It feels productive, but it is absolutely not a prerequisite for success. In fact, most of the time, that busyness is just, well, it's a performance. It's a mask for a lack of real output.
You know, if you look at the really foundational success stories, like Bill Gates in the early days of Microsoft, his edge wasn't just that he was smarter. It was his almost superhuman ability to just focus deeply without any interruption.
For long stretches of time.
For incredibly long stretches. He could basically condense years of development into a few months. That skill, that's what Cal Newport calls deep work.
And here's the real kicker. Deep work is probably the single most economically valuable superpower you can cultivate right now. But it's also becoming incredibly rare.
It really is.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into Newport's framework. Our whole mission here is to unpack the core rules, the actual mindset shifts that can take you from being perpetually distracted to, well, to producing genuinely world-class results.
And we have to start with the stakes. I mean, the cold, hard economic reality of it. We're in the middle of what people are calling the great restructuring.
Right. With AI and intelligent machines, all that routine cognitive work, its value is just plummeting.
It is. And success, real success, is now funneling to basically 3 specific groups of people.
Okay, so the first is high-skilled workers, people who can master really complex tools and systems.
Yep. Then you have the superstars in their field, the ones who can execute and communicate at an elite level, and then, of course, the owners of capital.
So if you want to be in those first 2 groups, you have to urgently develop 2 core abilities.
The very first one is the ability to master hard things and to do it quickly. I mean, technology changes so fast that if you can learn a new skill faster than everyone else, you become indispensable.
And the second ability is just to produce at an elite level. It's about that combination of high quality and speed. You don't get paid for being busy. You get paid for creating real value that can't be easily replicated.
And both of those things, they rely 100% on intense focus.
It really boils down to what Newport calls the law of productivity.
Yeah, and this is so critical to get. It's a formula, basically. High-quality work produced equals the time you spend multiplied by your intensity of focus.
So it's not just about putting in the hours.
Not at all. And deep work is what maximizes both of those variables. It's about concentrating your time on the really cognitively demanding stuff, not the shallow work.
Use all the logistical things, the emails, the quick Slack messages.
Exactly. It's necessary stuff, but it's easily replicated, and it almost never produces breakthrough value.
And this is where it gets really fascinating for me, because the impact isn't just on your output. It's physiological. It's what's happening in your brain.
It's neuroscience. Deep work literally improves your brain's ability to learn through something called myelin generation.
Myelin, that's the fatty tissue that grows around your neurons, right?
Exactly. Think of it like the rubber insulation around an electrical wire. When you focus intensely, you force these specific brain circuits to fire over and over and over again.
And that builds up the myelin.
It builds up the myelin, making it thicker, which allows those signals to fire faster and cleaner. You are literally physically getting sharper and more capable just by concentrating.
So that feeling of strain, when you're really pushing yourself to focus on something hard, that's not you failing. That's your brain building insulation. It's you getting smarter in real time.
But the thing that kills that process instantly is distraction.
The attention residue trap.
Yes. So imagine you're deep in a complex report. Then you just pause for 60 seconds to check an email about, I don't know, the office pizza party.
Seems harmless.
Seems harmless, but even after you switch back, a residue of your attention stays stuck on that email. It's still processing it. So when you get back to the report, your mental capacity might be diminished by 20%.
It's cognitive poison. The research shows that people who are chronic multitaskers end up as, this is a quote, mental wrecks.
They lose the ability to filter out what's irrelevant. It's why deep work is so rare, and honestly, that's your biggest opportunity, because most workplaces are set up to encourage shallow work.
They reward responsiveness over quality.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into the actionable rules. If this is a superpower, how do we get it? Rule number 1 is you have to ritualize and engineer your focus.
It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Because willpower, that idea that you can just force yourself to concentrate, it's a finite resource. It will run out.
If you're relying on brute force, you're going to fail by lunchtime.
Absolutely. You need smart routines. You need structures to minimize the friction of getting into that state of concentration. It can't just be an ad hoc thing. You have to pick a philosophy.
And he lays out a few. The first is the bimodal approach. This is what people like Carl Jung did. You dedicate these huge specific blocks of time, days, even weeks just for deep work.
And then you alternate that with periods for all the shallow stuff. It's sort of a feast or famine approach to focus.
Or there's the rhythmic approach.
This is more about creating a fixed daily habit, a chain. Like every single morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., that is your deep work time. No exceptions. You just do it.
Okay, but I can hear people asking, if I have a demanding 9 to 5, a family, isn't that bimodal approach basically impossible for anyone who isn't, a tenured professor or a CEO?
That's a totally fair point. And yeah, it's easier for an academic, but the principle still holds. You have to identify some blocks of time, even if it's just Tuesday afternoon, and treat them bimodally.
You mean wall them off completely?
Wall them off, make them sacred. You decide now that during that window, you will ignore every single external demand. It's a commitment.
And that commitment often needs what he calls grand gestures.
Right. These are physical or even financial cues that you use to signal to your own brain how important this is. Bill Gates going to a cabin for his Think Weeks.
Or J.K. Rowling booking that fancy hotel room to finish Harry Potter. She was forcing herself into a new, isolated environment.
Exactly. Now, you might not be able to rent a cabin, but you can create a ritual structure. You define in advance 3 things.
Okay, 1, where you'll work. A dedicated, distraction-free space.
2, how you'll work. So self-imposed bans on your phone, on the internet, whatever it is.
And 3, how you'll support your mind. Having your coffee ready, your water, planning for a short walk.
The ultimate version of this is the conceptual eudaimonia machine, a building designed just for peak human flourishing. You'd walk through sequential rooms, ending in these soundproof, deep work chambers.
Total uninterrupted focus. We have to try and replicate a little piece of that in our own lives.
That's the goal.
Which brings us to rules 2 and 3. These are all about fortifying your mind against that digital onslaught. So, rule number 2, embrace boredom.
This one is so fundamental because distraction is, it's an addiction. If you fill every single micro moment of potential boredom waiting in line, standing at a red light with a quick glance at your phone,
you're rewiring your brain.
You are training your brain to expect on-demand stimulation. You're making yourself incapable of sustained concentration.
So how do we fight that? How do we retrain that mental muscle?
One key tactic is to schedule breaks from focus, not schedule breaks for distraction. So you use the internet only in pre-scheduled blocks.
Even if you need a quick piece of info for something you're working on offline.
Even then, you wait until your scheduled internet block. It feels inefficient in the moment, but you're training that muscle of discipline. You're learning to tolerate that little itch.
It can also use your downtime better with what he calls productive meditation.
Right. When you're doing something physical, like walking or driving, instead of zoning out, you focus your attention on a single, well-defined professional problem.
But you have to structure it.
You have to structure it. You identify the variables, you define a next step question you need to answer, and then you try to consolidate your thinking into a decision. It turns mindless time into a focused brainstorming session.
And then there's the Roosevelt Dash.
Interval training for your brain. You set tight artificial deadlines for a high priority task. That constraint forces intense concentration. There's just no time for your mind to wander.
Which leads right into rule number 3, quit social media. Or at least be way more intentional about it.
Yeah, move away from the any benefit mindset. That's where you use a tool just because it offers some tiny minor benefit, like seeing a cousin's vacation photo.
Instead, you adopt the craftsman approach.
The craftsman approach says you should use a tool only if its positive impact on your core goals substantially outweighs all of its negative impacts on your focus and time.
And these platforms are designed, let's be honest, to capture and sell your attention. They're not built for your benefit.
Not at all. And the only way to really know the true cost is to do the 30-day test.
A 30-day social media sabbatical. Just pick one service and quit it for a month.
And afterwards, you just ask 2 simple questions. 1, would the last 30 days have been notably better if I had used this service?
And 2, did anyone important in my life actually care that I wasn't using it?
And if the answer to both is no, and for most people it's a clear no, then you should probably quit it permanently. You've just proven it's a net negative in your life.
Okay, so that brings us to the final rule number 4. Drain the shallows. This is the fight against that culture of busyness as a proxy for productivity.
The very first step here is a huge mindset shift. It's called fixed schedule productivity. You decide on a strict end time for your workday, say 5:38 p.m., and you do not work past it.
That seems counterintuitive, like you'd get less done.
But the hard constraint forces you to be ruthless. You have to call the shallow tasks. You have to prioritize fiercely. You simply don't have time to waste if you know the clock is ticking.
It's a meta-habit. The constraint breeds efficiency.
And you need a framework to measure it. The 40X method is great for this. First, you focus on a wildly important goal. You limit yourself to just one or two big, deep work outcomes.
You can't focus deeply on 10 things at once.
Exactly. Then, and this is the most crucial part, you act on lead measures.
So don't obsess over the final output, which is a lag measure, like book published.
Right. Instead, you track the input behavior you can actually control, the lead measure. And in this case, that is the total number of deep work hours you perform each week.
Because you can control sitting down to focus. You can't always control the immediate result.
Precisely. Focus on the hours, and the quality output will eventually take care of itself. And finally, you have to keep a compelling scoreboard.
Make it visible. Put a calendar on your wall and put a big X on every day you hit your deep work goal. It gamifies it and keeps you honest.
Okay, now we have to talk about the biggest killer of deep work for most people, email.
And communication in general.
Right. You need radical strategies here. Strategy 1, be hard to reach. If you don't have to, don't put your email address publicly on your website. You have to control the doorway to your attention.
Strategy 2, maximize the sender's burden.
This is a huge time saver. If someone emails you asking for a meeting, don't just reply what time works. You do the work up front. You send back an email listing all your available times and a link to book.
So you close the loop in one interaction instead of 5 back and forth pings that just shatter your focus.
Exactly. And the final, toughest one, practice non-response.
Don't reply to ambiguous requests or things where, nothing bad is actually going to happen if you just ignore them.
This takes guts. But as Tim Ferriss says, develop the habit of letting small bad things happen. If you don't, you will never find time for the life-changing big things.
If you respond to every email, you're essentially letting other people's shallow priorities dictate your entire life.
That's it. And ultimately, this whole commitment to deep work is pragmatic. The ability to concentrate is the skill that gets valuable things done. But the payoff is so much deeper than just your career.
That's where the philosophy really comes in.
Absolutely. Deep work is tied to meaning. When you're fully focused, your mind is stretched to its limits to accomplish something worthwhile. That is the psychological state we call flow.
And flow is directly linked to human happiness.
Yeah.
So a deep life is, fundamentally, a good life.
But, and this is key, to maximize deep work, you have to maximize restorative downtime. You can't be on all the time. Most people can only sustain maybe 4 hours of true high-intensity focus a day, max.
So to respect that limit, you need a hard shutdown ritual at the end of the day.
This could be just 15 minutes. You review your tasks, you make a concrete written plan for the next day, and then you actually say a phrase out loud like, shutdown complete.
That sounds a little silly.
It does, but it signals to your brain that the work is done. It overcomes something called the Zeigarnik effect, which is why unfinished tasks haunt you and keep you from relaxing. You write down the plan, you tell your brain it's handled, and you can truly switch off.
The deep life, the focused life, it's demanding. It means leaving behind that comfortable feeling of being busy, which so often feels like safety.
It demands true craftsmanship. You have to strip away the distractions and really deploy your mind to its fullest.
And here's the final provocative thought to leave you with. When you commit to this, when you commit to producing the best work you are capable of, you have to confront a real possibility that your bad might not be as good as you'd hoped.
That's the fear, isn't it?
It's the ultimate fear. So the question is, are you willing to trade the easy, comfortable life of constant, shallow distraction for the demanding yet profoundly meaningful life of focus? That choice is what really separates people in the new economy.